No, let's talk about the darkest white. You know what? I mean, obviously you're dealing, the darkest white to me is exactly what it is. It's like, the snow's all white and then it's all dark. It's just gone. It's just like, to me, it's Avi. It's, you can look up, the things about Craig Kelly and those that perished, but tell me about Craig and what moved you to want to just tell the story of the Michael Jordan of snowboarding at the time of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, honestly, I can actually have a prop here.
Yeah.
So take you to the moment of that catalyst. So this Craig Kelly is my co-pilot, if you can see it.
Yes.
That was a sticker that was made by a kid in Utah, the X Games, the year when he died in 2003, and it was, Craig he was kind of like the compass that pointed the way for a lot of snowboarders in our generation. And I was 15 years after his death in a chairlift line taking my son snowboarding, and this kid in the lift line next to me, a kid who looks like he should know better. Like, he's in his 20s or whatever, but he's got his gear's gnarly, his board's chipped up, he rides a lot, and he looks down at that and just looks over and says, "Who's Craig Kelly?" And I just was floored because Craig Kelly was everything to us. And I realized at that point, wow, the new generation doesn't even know who he is. And I didn't want him to be forgotten. And that's what made me decide I want to tell the story, because I knew Craig personally just through magazine articles. We were friends. We weren't buddies, like because he grew up with and whatnot, or the Mount Baker hardcore that he rode with at Mount Baker.
Right.
But we were close. We spent time together, and anybody who spent time with Craig got to experience he just has this aura, and he was snowboarding's first professional. He was a guy who brought discipline and training. He worked his ass off with a 4-time world champion, and that's what really, makes him, I think the special ops communities would all appreciate Craig, because he was that guy who kind of, he was a child of adversity, and a lot of special ops guys were and are.
They are.
And so he had divorced parents, latchkey kid.
Yep.
Dad ran a trucking business. There was times when he'd be home alone for weeks at a time. If something was going to happen in his life, he was going to make it happen. At the same time, he loved his parents. They loved him, and he had to grow up a little bit early. And he rose up, and he was smart. He was cerebral. He was going to the University of Washington, majoring in chemical engineering. Just a bright guy,
right?
Smart. And then he decided, 2 quarters shy of graduating, he started the university. By the way, he had moved up in school. He was 17 years old his freshman year in college, so he was like a baby in a fraternity. So, anyways, he was this guy who decided, hey, I think I can make it as a pro snowboarder in a sport that didn't even exist yet. Dropped out of college where he had this promising career to make a lot of money compared to the near poverty that he grew up with, and became an icon. And it's just a great story, and he inspired so many people. He was eloquent, he was smart, and he had this ethereal style that it made him beautiful to watch. No matter what he was doing, freestyle, half pipe, tricks, but especially
hand plants,
and direct.
Yes.
Especially though in powder. And he ultimately left, turned and walked away from all of it and returned to the backcountry, because that was kind of where he felt snowboarding was most pure, and where he followed his bliss and decided, I'm going to go back into the backcountry. And he ultimately was endeavoring to become a mountain guide at a time in his life when he was 36 years old, when he had kind of dropped off the map publicly, and the way I describe it, I know, I'm sorry, I'm an 80s kid, but he was the Obi-Wan Kenobi of snowboarding. And that was who was this mysterious soul surfing snow surfer who, but was always progressing inside, and was tragically killed during his training to become the first snowboarding mountain guide for the ACMG, Association of Canadian Mountain Guides, which is renowned around the world. They are gnarly. They are like the top percent. Just like,
you think that he made a path for others to follow? You think he gave others the wake that they could ride on to.
He broke down the walls with the ACMG. He was the first snowboarder, split boarder, that they allowed to even attempt their training certification process. And people to this day, the people who followed after and the first one, they always give credit to Craig.
Yeah.
So I want the world to know about Craig. I want everybody on the planet to know who Craig was, at least the snowboarders and the skiers. I don't want anybody to see a Craig Kelly as my co-pilot sticker and say, who's Craig Kelly? And that's
right.
my goal with this book.
That's awesome. I have actually on my snowboard in my Thule right now, I have a I Ride with Jake sticker. On there. And I also do the I Ride for Others hashtag whenever I post up snowboard pics. It's like, I have that mindset as well. As I don't want to take it for granted. Yesterday, I was traversing Millie Bowl with my wife, and we take Millie at Brighton, go all the way up, go in front of Millie Bowl, and it was just straight chutes and ladders all the way down. And I slid out for 5-6 seconds, and I got all this slough at the base of my feet, and I just come to a stop. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm playing with, I know we avalanche bust up there and the ski patrol's really great at it. But you just have this awareness all of a sudden. And my wife's above me. She's like, are you going to slide down or are you going to snowboard down? And I was like, I stood up. I was like, I'm snowboard down. I'm like,
you didn't see anything.
Yeah, you didn't see that.
They're not the droids you're looking for.
No, dude. We're literally traversing, what you look like would be powder, but it's wet and it's heavy. And I was talking crap to Millie the mountain as I was riding, and then she just stuck me in the snow. And I said, all right. I was like, fair enough, Millie. All right.
The mountain will put you in your place. Nature
100%.
wins.
Always. If you're not ready and you're not alert and you're not aware of what's around you, I'm like, give me 3-second lead time to navigate myself is what I'll say to her if we're right. Give me 3 seconds to lead time, and then you come to me kind of like that. And just make sure I don't go off a cliff.
Yep. Do that. That's awesome.
Totally.
That is funny.
Yeah. Taught my wife to snowboard now 6 years ago. She learned at 40. Oh, she's hard charger. She's faster than me. I thought I was like, I grew up with Jason Brown and went to school with JP and all these different guys, and she's gone. I was like, all right.
I bet she carves because
she does.
They learn the mechanics better. They're
it's the hips.
Hips, graceful, and the mechanics, and all comes together, and it's a different look. When you
it is.
See, a woman ride. They can ride anything that a guy can nowadays, and oh my God, if you look at the half pipe and everything, it blows my mind. There is a
Holy Kim,
much more even playing field now than it was when we started.
Oh yeah,
it's great. It's really honestly. The snowboarding has become like what skiing was. I don't know if you've noticed, but like a lot of the kids are wanting to ski, so they rebel against their parents who are snowboarders. And Cody Townsend, who the guy did the 50 project, that writing all the 50 best ski lines in the world, and he's working on that. Amazing skier, nicest guy in the world. And I come to find out that his dad wrote a Craig Kelly Air. I sent him a copy of the book.
That's cool.
Back and he said, I think it was one of the early generations where my parents were both snowboarders, and I rebelled and said I want to ski, and now he's like, one of the most
I want to ski.
in the world.
I can't laugh at that. I started as a skier at Powder Mountain here in Utah, and with my skate shop, I was like, I got to get on the snow. First, I started as a cross-country skier. I wanted to do the biathlon. So my father encouraged that and would train me to do cross-country ski biathlon. He wanted to see me do it. So he's like, let's go do it. And then I liked the downhill part of skiing. And so I started downhill skiing, got some K2s, and I bought my own boots, my own Nordicas. It's like hustling. And then I started riding at Powder Mountain, and I'm sitting on the night ski lift. And as we're going up at Powder Mountain, I look over and there's a bonfire, and I just see these snowboarders wearing Sorels, bro. And he's just like, tap, 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 up the stairs. He's like, I'll be right there, bro. Up the stairs. And I was like, I want to walk like that. I don't want to wear RoboCop boots.
Yeah. Conk, conk.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me. Here I come. You know what I'm saying, dude? It's like, can't run. So from then on, I wrote a Burton split tail board that I had in my skate shop I was trying to sell, but nobody wanted it because it was too old school. And the new school was everybody was.
It was probably a Burton Elite, black and red.
It was yellow, and
the yellow with like the pinky.
yes,
Whatever.
and had a little V tail.
Yeah, I remember. I know exactly the board. Yeah.
And having a skate shop allowed me access to people like getting rid of stuff that they didn't know they wanted, back in the day. And I remember I had like this Burton twin tip demo board. It said demo in the bottom of the P-Tech stuff. I was like, well, I'll sell that.
Well, I'm just impressed. I mean, 13 years old to be the entrepreneur and want to open a shop and stoke, you're probably, I don't know, there probably weren't a lot of skaters, or maybe there were a lot of skaters, but there wasn't a shop.
Nope.
Whatever it was, dude, 13-year-old
Yep.
entrepreneur. You need to meet Ken Achenbach and have him on your show someday, because he opened the first snowboard shop in Calgary out of his parents' garage.
That's basically, we could talk. I started selling grilled cheese sandwiches because kids were selling lemonade. And I would sell them for $2. And then my dad had a vending machine in his armory because he was an army guy. And he's like, well, I'm going to feed all my guys when they come to drill. So I'll have a Coke machine and a vending machine. And so we had some stuff in the garage, and I would bring it outside and sell it. And I'd sell it right there on the corner, and the kids would come and buy it from me. And my dad's like, how much money did you make today? I was like, $36. He's like, how much bread you use? And I was like, the whole loaf. He's like, how much Velveeta? How much Velveeta? I was like, I don't know, maybe like half the brick of Velveeta. And he's like, well, that costs $4. Okay. And I was like, all right. And he started busting out how much electricity cost and how much the house that I lived in that housed the food cost. And then he started telling me about, how much I made. And he's like, what'd you sell the Diet Cokes for? I said 2 for $1. Everything was 50 cents in the vending machine. It changed to 60 cents and I didn't realize it. And at the time, it was breaking everyone's dollars. You know what I mean? You couldn't get too.
You can't buy anything out of a vending machine for less than $2 now.
No, so I had to pay him back for the Diet Cokes and the Velveeta, but he said I made enough off the bread that he let me keep it. And that's how I actually got my cross-country ski poles, was by hustling for money, and he wanted to see me earn it. And that's how I got my Nordica ski boots, was hustling. And then I said, hey, Dad, right here, there's this distributor, Smoot Hill Distribution. It's called Smoot Hill out of LA or California. I was like, let me fill this out and get me a business license. And he looked at me and he's like, all right. So I took my $100 that I had saved up in my little cash register, gave it to him. He got me a business license. And then I applied to Smoot Hill and I started getting in skateboards, but I couldn't afford a roll of tape. It was like 80 something bucks. And I could afford like 2 skateboard decks. So I just started flipping skateboards, and then they'd go to the other skate shop that's in Ogden. And he's like, where are you getting all these skateboards? Because he's grip taping them. He's not selling them the board, just the grip tape. Because I couldn't afford grip tape.
You didn't have it. Oh my God.
Yeah, but all my homies in the area were like, I'm buying Ray Boy's skateboards from his garage. And so next thing you know, my dad's like, we need to get you a little shop. And so we hustled it. And I know it's not my show. This is about you.
What a great story. No, but I mean, listen, I think that's kind of, I love story.
Yeah.
Stories. And that's, and
so how you talk about going from like transitioning from snowboarding to military. My dad was fully supportive of that same culture. He was a Green Beret. He saw the whole awesome snowboarding, skiing, downhill, Nordic crossover, He trained me in it.
A lot of people, they don't get it. They're like, where how did this happen? And for me, first of all, I always understood the wisdom of older people.
Yes.
And I would always listen to stories, and I was always interested in military history. And what really did the turn for me is, after I graduated, after I worked for TransWorld for many years, and saw the world, went freelance, and started. I wrote my first book called The Last Season, which was more kind of like it's the story of a backcountry ranger who went missing while on patrol. He was a guy who everybody went to when someone went missing, and then one day he went missing.
Wow.
And they had to find him. It's an awesome.
And what's the name of that book again?
The Last Season. It's called
The Last
it takes place
Season.
In Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park, and it kind of tells the backstory of the history of national parks and seasonal park rangers. They called them. I think they called them like 3-month wonders or things, because they would work just that season area, time of year. But anyways, that book, and then 9/11 happened. And around that same period of time, I always, again, loved military history. I had a neighbor who was a Vietnam vet when I was a kid. I was a latchkey kid, so I would go and toss the football around with him. He would show me old photo albums. He showed me this shot, I remember one time, of a helmet that I don't even have one. I got all sorts of crap here because I like to. But
I love it.
I have a old school Vietnam era
Oh, I love it.
And he had a picture of his that had a huge dent on the side where he had been sideswiped by friendly fire, by a missile.
Oh
And that's
no.
what took him out of the war. But he had been a tunnel rat who was the guy that went in with the pistol, and he would tell me all these stories, and I was just wrapped by it. And so my mom and dad, they subscribed to Time Life books, and I read the whole history of the Vietnam War, Tet Offensive, and the demilitarized zone, and the Cambodia and the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I mean, I learned all this stuff at a very young age and was fascinated by it, and read the Battle of Midway. So I had that base of respecting the military, loving the history, loving the stories, and then Saving Private Ryan came out, and Band of Brothers, and the kind of the storyline that was going with those movies and those shows and things with the World War II vets at that point were getting old, and
Right.
a lot of them didn't talk about it, and a lot of their stories were dying with them. And so fast forward to after 9/11, I just, looked at what was going on. I'd been telling these adventure stories and snowboarding, having a good time, enjoying this life we have in America, right?
Right.
I thought, the war on terror happened. I got married 3 days after 9/11. So it was like a celebration. It was kind of like the ultimate FU to terrorism. No, life goes on. We've got this wedding planned. We're going to party.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is history happening right now, and this is our current greatest generation.